This video and all of its contents, including any opinions expressed by the narrator, are strictly for entertainment purposes only and is not intended in any way as a substitute for professional services and consultation from a licensed therapist, doctor, attorney, or other licensed professional service provider. Each person must make their own life decisions, and those decisions are theirs. Welcome back to Find Your Alpha. I'm back this week with another terrific video story. This one is titled, Stunned Wife Thought She Was Getting Away with Her Little Harmless Affair, as she calls it. But guess what? She got a rude awakening because her husband knew everything and took immediate action. Now let's get into this story and see what went on here. She starts out and she says, I'm completely devastated and need advice on how to best handle my situation. It's funny how a lot of these guilty parties, when they write a post, they start out this way. She says, earlier today, I learned my husband is getting remarried. I still refer to him that way, even though we got divorced 2 years ago. We were together a total of 4 years and have a 3-year-old daughter. I got pregnant right after we started dating, and we moved in together when we were 21. Now, I underlined that statement there, I got pregnant right after we started dating, because guess what, guys? That's a big red flag. If that ever happens to you, my suggestion would be to get a DNA test. We were both working back then, but I stopped right before she was born. Money was an issue, but we made it work and never thought much of it. Our parents helped out, and everything was really great. To make ends meet, my husband was taking all the overtime he could get so we could pay our bills while I stayed home to raise our child. Well, that's a good traditional setup. That's how things used to be in the old days, and guess what? Things were a lot better back then. This left little time for us to spend alone together. When he was home, we'd spend most of the time with our daughter and our families. This was great and all, and I'm not complaining about it, but I did start to feel isolated and without hope for anything more in life. The fact that you're writing a post like this, you are complaining about it. I believe this caused me to do the careless and stupid thing I did. To cope with the isolation, I got heavy into my social media. Now, I think social media is great if it's used properly, but some people get addicted and they go off on some very bad paths, and that's what you're going to see happens here. It was my outlet and connection to some place that seemed so much more exciting than where I was, even though it was far from it. Yes, the grass always looks greener on the other side, doesn't it? During the summer of my senior year of high school, and for 2 summers after that, I worked at a big amusement park in my state. It was there that I met and developed a close friendship with one of the employees. To keep it simple, I'll call him Anthony. He and I really connected as friends and had lots in common. We were both homebodies, introverts, and gaming nerds. Oh, I could just picture these two. Towards the end of my final summer there, he and I started dating sometimes. What I mean by that is we would exclusively hang out together. We'd mostly play video games and sometimes end up kissing and snuggling with each other. Totally innocent stuff, but eventually we started exploring each other's bodies. So according to her, this was like 2 years after she graduated, so she must have been around like 20 years old at this time. She says, we eventually started taking things as far as we could without any form of penetration. Okay, so that leaves a lot to the imagination. I wanted to save myself in that way for the man I would eventually marry, and Anthony wanted to do the same because of our religious beliefs. So they obviously belong to some religion that states you must save yourself until you're married. But what you find a lot of times in those kind of situations, people end up doing exactly what these two did here, doing everything else but. She says, even so, those summer days with Anthony were some of the most exhilarating times of my life, but I never saw him as a boyfriend. We were just friends who had a lot in common and were exploring life together. Just 2 young people coming of age together. Now I wonder why she didn't see him as boyfriend material. He must not have checked all her boxes in terms of looks or in terms of income potential, who knows what. She says, we kept in touch throughout the year and met up 2 times after, but the following summer, I got a job nearby and never went back to the park. Anthony did, and we kept in touch right up to the point where things got serious between me and my future husband. Anthony was heartbroken about it. We stopped communicating, but stayed connected on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. So she was really into the social media. After that, things with my husband progressed and we got pregnant right away. Well, then you didn't end up saving yourself for marriage, did you? She says, we moved in together, had the baby, then got married on her second birthday. That was the happiest day of my life, and everything since has been a pure joy. Before anyone asks about it, my husband is the father of our daughter. As I stated previously, I was pure before he and I got together. In addition to that, our daughter had some medical issues right after she was born, and multiple DNA tests were done at that time. Okay, well that's good. He is the father, and hopefully the little girl is okay now. Being a stay-at-home parent, I filled my days with social media to have a connection to the outside world. Though we were still connected, Anthony and I hadn't communicated after we broke things off. Then one day I noticed he liked one of my posts, then another and another. I'm not sure what prompted me, but one day I decided to send him a private message to see how he was doing. It took him a while to respond, but when he did, it was like our friendship never ended. He had been following my life online, and I had been following his. So she was keeping tabs on this guy, kind of as someone to keep in her side pocket. After this, we started messaging every few days, which then became daily, then multiple times a day. None of this crossed the line, but it was inappropriate because my husband didn't know. Well, I beg to differ with you. It definitely crossed the line. You shouldn't be communicating with another man, especially if your husband doesn't know about it. She goes on and says, well, I didn't think he knew about it at the time. As fate would have it, Anthony came to our area about once a month, either for business or to visit his aunt and uncle who live about 20 miles from us. When he did, I started meeting up with him for coffee. It was nothing at first, just two old friends catching up. I even brought my daughter with me the first few times. Ugh. Then after that, I started going by myself and had my older sister watch her. I'd normally say it was for me to do some shopping or something, but it was never for that. On one of the trips, I ended up meeting Anthony at his hotel. I remember feeling extreme intrepidation as I approached, but something evil drew me towards his room. Once there, he and I restarted the relationship we had developed years before. Didn't take much, did it? In my mind, I felt it wasn't wrong because I wasn't hurting anyone and thought of Anthony only as a friend. At home, I was still being the best wife and mother I could be. In fact, I think I was better as I was even more attentive to my husband during this time. So here again is another situation where a woman who is cheating is love-bombing her husband, so he never suspects anything. But our man in this story, he's got more on the ball. She says, I want to make clear, I've never fully given myself fully to anyone but my husband. Well, maybe I believe that the first go round with this Anthony, but now, I don't believe that. I don't buy it. She goes on and says, even so, I know what I did with Anthony is wrong. But at the time, I didn't want to admit it. This went on for several months until the day my husband found out. So this just wasn't a one-time slip-up. This was a full-blown affair. And guess what? If her husband didn't find out, she'd probably still be carrying on with this guy. I knew I was in big trouble as soon as I walked in the door. He was sitting there with our parents, and all of them had looks of dread on their faces. It's something I'll never forget. He asked me where I'd been, and before I could answer, he said they all knew, and for me to think hard before saying something. So he clued in both sets of parents there to make sure everybody was on the same page when they confronted her. That was smart. I fumbled for an answer and told them I had just come back from meeting with an old friend. I said I didn't tell anyone because the friend is a guy, and I knew my husband would be upset about it. Little did I know he knew almost everything I had been doing with Anthony. So the husband here obviously recognized some odd behavior and was tracking her every step. He had our chats and a log of the dates and times we met up. He also had videos of me walking in and out of the hotels on 4 different dates. In 2 of the photos, I was holding hands with Anthony. After seeing the pictures, I felt the best thing to do was to make a full confession. I told him everything, but he didn't accept my explanation or apology. Good for him. He made me leave with my parents and without our daughter. I thought after a few days he'd settle down and think more clearly, but he didn't. He wouldn't talk and wouldn't let me come back home. I know I could have forced the issue, but I chose not to do that as I was trying so hard to win him over. Without even having another conversation with me, he filed for divorce. Well, based on what you've told us here, I can't blame him. I later found out he had been working with a lawyer for weeks and had everything planned. Now, she really doesn't get into detail how her husband found out, but I'm assuming, like I said before, he recognized some odd behavior and just started tracking her every move. He was determined to break up our family, and there was nothing I could do to stop him. No, he didn't choose to break up the family. You chose to do that when you stepped out with this Anthony. Only the Lord knows how hard I tried and how many tears I've cried since that awful day. During this ordeal, I've lost over 30 pounds and still weigh less than 100 pounds today. I've never been the same since, and my doctor thinks the trauma and stress may have given me an autoimmune disease. At least I have all the symptoms of it. It's been almost 2 years since our divorce, and it's been a really difficult time for me. See, she's saying, for me, it's been difficult. Well, what about your husband? What about your daughter? What about your parents? Everybody has had a difficult time because of what you did. She goes on and says, I'm back working now 30 hours a week at a fast casual place. I try to time my hours for when my husband has our daughter, but sometimes there's overlap and I'm forced to be away from her. While I enjoy my job and interacting with people, I'd much rather be home with my baby. Well, you were home with your baby and you weren't satisfied with that, so make up your mind. See, ladies, here's the thing. If you've got a good husband, even if he doesn't have a lot of money and doesn't have a lot of future prospects, but he's a good man and he's taking care of you, and you have a beautiful child, a healthy child, and you've got a good family, you've got the ideal situation. There's nothing out there that's better than that. I mean, women today have it in their head that, they're missing out on something. They're missing out on the travel and the excitement, running off with this guy and that guy. No, that is not fulfilling. You had it all and you threw it away. She goes on and says she's very happy, so she's talking about her daughter here, and obviously doesn't fully understand what's happened. Sometimes she gets emotional on handoff days, and it breaks my heart. We're both great parents, and her grandparents spoil her like crazy, so she's well taken care of even when I'm not there. Well, you're lucky you've got a good support system there. My husband and I now mostly communicate through a parenting app and only about matters about our daughter. He used to make time to talk to me on handoff days, but he doesn't do that anymore because he's always got his girlfriend with him. Uh-oh, I sense some jealousy here. Before she came along, I thought there was a good chance we'd be able to make a new start. That's kind of out the window now because today his sister let me know they got engaged even though they've only known each other for less than a year. Well, if I could send a message to your husband, I would say, hey, listen, guy, it's fine that you put yourself back on the market, but you better be taking it slow. Don't jump into things like you did with your first wife here who's telling this story. The problem I have is that deep inside, I still believe he loves me. I really think he's only doing this thinking she'll be able to replace me. I love him and can't let him do this without giving one more try to see if it's possible. Oh, brother. I'm open for suggestions on how to best go about this. I was thinking of going to his job and going up to talk to him when he leaves for the day. No, don't go to his job. That's a big mistake. You've already caused enough problems in his personal life and now you want to go to his job? Don't do it. That way I'll be able to get him away from everyone. What are your opinions on this? And that's the end of her original post. And now we're at a point in this story where I want to remind you, if you're enjoying this channel and you're liking what you're hearing today, be sure to hit that like button right now. That will help out the channel tremendously and help get this video seen all over the world. Now let's take a look at some of the comments she got back. The first one is from a guy. He says, stay out of it. You've done enough damage to his life and your daughter's. He's never going to take you back. Also, I don't buy that you only fooled around and never went all the way with Anthony. This responder says, you know you did and your ex should get a DNA test ASAP. Well, she did say in the story that they already did DNA testing, so that's good news for the husband, if you believe what she's saying. The second response is from a woman. She says, seems like this Anthony is who you really want to be with. Now that you're single, why don't you try getting something going with him? You risk your marriage and your family for him, so obviously you have a strong connection to him. Yeah, that's the thing that baffles me. I've said this on countless stories. How many of these situations do women risk everything? They have a beautiful life. They have the package. They have the great husband. They have the great family. And then they go off and they just throw everything away for someone they say they're not even interested in. It's just crazy. And the final response is also from a woman. She says, he's rushing things with her, but that's none of your business. The only concern you should have is whether she's a good person because she'll be around your daughter. If she is, then you should leave it be and move on with your own life. And I agree with what this woman is saying here. And now the original poster comes back with a final update. And I think this final update, I didn't list it here, was only like 2 or 3 weeks later. She says, I would like to first thank everyone for the overwhelming responses I received to my post. It made me feel like there are still a lot of kind and thoughtful people in the world. Not everyone was so nice, but even with them, I could see wisdom in their words. After reading through them and thinking about it, I decided to meet with my faith counselor for guidance. She's been a bright light to me through my divorce and in the years since, but we haven't met for counsel since I got settled into my new life. I explained my situation and what I was planning. She heard me out and then gave me her input. She said I needed to let go of my marriage and move on for the good of myself and my daughter. Now the OP says, I told her I knew my husband's girlfriend was not pure. She goes on and says she explained, meaning the counselor, that didn't matter because she hasn't betrayed him. Well, and that's a good point. Even though this woman, according to the OP, has been with other men, guess what? She hasn't betrayed your ex-husband like you did. She told me no matter what I did now, I could not take back my betrayal, and for that, my husband will never see me the same way again. Yeah, this counselor here is making some sense. The OP says it was hard to hear that, but I needed to hear it, and I accept it. She told me there is someone out there to whom that will not matter, and to whom I can prove my loyalty and trust. She said I should focus my energy on being a great parent and trying to find him, instead of wasting energy trying to recreate something I destroyed. The OP goes on and says, that is what I've decided to do. I'd like to find someone within my faith this time and build a life with him. So let me get this straight. So she married a man outside of her faith, but then she cheats on that man with a guy within her faith. But she doesn't want to have a relationship with a guy she cheated on within her faith, but she wants to find another guy within her faith to hopefully get married to. I think I've got that straight. It's crazy. She says, I've recently joined a group at my church and have become active in a couple faith groups online. I hope to meet him there or maybe be lucky enough to bump into him at the grocery store. Thank you for being there and helping me work through this. And that's the end of her story. Well, what I'll say about this in summary, according to how she described the events that occurred, this husband played his cards the right way here. He knew what she was doing. He obviously was tracking her. He planned his escape, and then he confronted her, and he immediately filed for divorce. There was no turning back. And to me, that's how you handle things the right way. So I applaud him for doing that. And now I want to cover what I think are the morals of this story. The first one. Cheating is cheating regardless of the physical act. It doesn't matter what you were doing with this Anthony. The mere fact you were with him and your husband didn't know about it, you were cheating on your husband. Next, once cheating has occurred, the relationship is over. At least the relationship that existed before. It's never going to be the same, and I've said this on countless videos. So you can either try to build something new with the person you betrayed, which I strongly discourage that for the person who was betrayed to ever even consider that, or you need to cut ties and go on and build something new with someone else, which in my view is the way to go. Next. Don't react on emotion. Develop a plan and follow it, just like this guy did. See, if he'd have probably went and confronted her right away saying, hey, what are these chats here that I'm reading? And where did you go last Wednesday? I saw that you went over to, this coffee shop and met with some guy. She would have given an excuse. Oh, you know what? It was just a friend of mine from back when I worked at the amusement park. He was in town. I was going to tell you about it, but it just slipped my mind. See, she would have spun a story and she would have likely got out of it. So the way he handled it was the right way. And finally, set the narrative and protect yourself by engaging others at the right time. And see, that's the key. You don't want to engage, especially her parents, too early, or anybody who's, on her side, so to speak, because chances are their loyalties are going to be with her. And if you tell them too early, they're going to tip her off, and then it's going to foil your whole plan. So you need to time things just right, and it sounds like he did just that. So those are my thoughts, and now I want to hear from you. What did you think of this story, and how do you think the guy in this story handled the situation? Would you have given her a second chance? Because according to her, she didn't go all the way with this Anthony? Or would you have taken the action her husband did and filed for divorce? Let us know about that in the comments. Also, be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to this channel, follow me on X, and I will talk to you on the next one.